Hey, this is Madison Matricula. This is just a short tutorial about setting up the sound settings in Zoom to be slightly more optimized for music. So I'm looking at my Zoom home screen. In this case, I've downloaded the Zoom desktop app. These settings are not available on the mobile or web browser extension. So we're going to go to, this is our home screen, and we're going to go to the little gear icon that's up in the top right where our settings live. So here we go. So here's some settings. So general, you won't worry as much about these. So we're going to be wanting to go to, our video check, hello. We're going to want to go to our audio settings. So two important things is to check which speaker Zoom thinks you're using. In this case, it's using my regular system speakers because that's what I'm going to plug my headphones into. Headphones are recommended. It'll just make it a little easier, but if you don't have headphones, just make sure that you mute yourself when you're not talking so that way you don't provide feedback to the rest of the stream. So you can check your speakers, blah, blah, blah. Here's our microphone. This is really important. It should, if you have multiple microphones, you need to make sure that you've selected the one you're using. Typically, if you're using an onboard microphone, it'll see that as the system default. But for me, I have a bunch, and it'll say same as system. But you can also select it specifically. So I want to make sure that I'm using my Snowball in this case, but I could use any of these other outputs or like a little lapel mic, whatever you want. So those are two things. So just make sure that you've got your microphone set up and you can test the sensitivities, but we won't quite go into that. So now we've checked what speakers we're using, we've checked what microphone we're using, and we are going to go to advanced. So these are the settings that are sort of making Zoom even more optimized for talking meetings. So there are a couple things you want to make sure that you've got checked. For this box, show in meeting option to enable original sound, you want to make sure that that is checked. With audio processing, we're going to want to see suppress persistent background noise. You're going to want to disable that. Persistent background noise is designed to kind of filter out things that aren't your voice when you're talking. So it's sort of like a noise gate. So let's disable that because we want to make sure our guitars or our singing comes through. Suppress intermittent background noise, also disable. And then echo cancellation, you can leave on auto. But when you do that, we'll go back and then we can close our settings. There's no save button, so just back out and close it. And then there's two other little pieces. So let's say we're going to start a new meeting. You're joining the open filk. There is my face. Join with computer audio. This is going to be all out of sync, I'm sure. So I'm gonna stop my video temporarily. There we go. There's my avatar. So a couple things. So here's a mute and unmute down here. You can always check what camera or what microphone Zoom thinks you're using by using these little options next to the mute buttons. So I always like to double check that I'm still using my microphone, my Snowball, or whatever microphone it should be. Just make sure everything matches. And then those are the speakers. So we're good there. And I don't need to have this on, so I'm gonna mute it. So the other thing is, remember that little checkbox we said that was mute, or it's an enable in meeting option to turn on original sound. When you're in your, so this is the meeting, hover up the top left of the meeting kind of window, such as it is, and you'll see these little options. There's probably like the little information button, which tells you where you are. The encryption, fancy, I have a paid account right now. And then here's this thing, it's this blue thing that says turn off original sound or turn on original sound. So if it's not on, do it. And then sometimes you have to check, this is another place to check and make sure that your microphones all match. Because sometimes when you turn on the original sound, it wants to use like a default or something. So microphone, blue Snowball. So now I've made sure that my microphones all match and all the little system dialogues, and I should be ready to go with slightly reduced noise gating. And I think this will help a lot with Zoom sound, particularly if you're using your own sound system like I do. I run through a mixer into a DAW, and then I can run that sound directly into Zoom. That's the way if you're doing music and you've got your own setup, you can run your actual sound through Zoom without its noise gates. So anyway, I hope that everybody has a lovely evening, and I hope to see everybody at Open Folks.